G'day Year 11s. Okay, so for exercise 2B we looked at creating frequency tables as well as percentage frequency tables, and then bar charts as well as percentage frequency bar charts. Now these things are all good and well, they're useful, but their use is limited if we don't have ways about describing the information contained within these diagrams, okay? It's very easy to look at a diagram, it looks very pretty, but many people look at graphs and tables and all they see is a bunch of gobbledygook. So if you get, say, a public service job and you're dealing with these sorts of things on a frequent basis, you will be asked on the basis of these visuals, these bar charts and frequency tables, to write little reports. And there are some rules that you can follow which can guide you towards making a nice little report on the basis of one of these diagrams, a nice little summary, if you will. So, with that having been said, let's dive straight into some examples. All right, here's our example. Now, listen to this little statement, okay? A sample of 200 people were asked to comment on the statement, "Astrology has scientific truth." Not astronomy, which is the study of the universe, astrology, you know, the sort of thing, your horoscopes, Libra, Capricorn, Sagittarius, all that sort of thing. So a sample of 200 people were asked to comment on whether this has scientific truth by selecting one of the options below. Definitely true, probably not true, definitely not true, or I don't know. Now, the data are summarized in the following frequency table and bar charts. Note that the categories in the frequency table can be ordered in a definite order because the data are ordinal. So we're talking about this data here. So astrology has scientific truth. That's a categorical variable because it asks for worded answers. But those worded answers can be ordered from least likely to most likely. So it's categorical but ordinal, okay? But not numerical. So, in other words, the variable astrology has scientific truth is an ordinal variable, as I just said. So let's have a look at these diagrams right here. Normally I actually get the class, just out of sheer curiosity, to do a survey, no judgment or anything, on this particular question, because it's really, really interesting to compare a typical class's results to this result. This was a survey done on 200 people. So, you know, a lot more accurate than a survey done on just a regular class of 25 people. But nonetheless, we usually do it. And the result's really interesting, actually. If you want to know where I fall, I would say astrology has no scientific truth. So definitely not true would be me. And that's just simply on the basis that I don't see any scientific evidence whatsoever that astrology has scientific truth. There's actually a funny thing that happens when you read the horoscopes in the newspaper. They are designed in such a way to appeal to people from every single horoscope. So think about the things that horoscopes tell you. You like hanging around people, you love socializing, but you also sort of like your own space. You're a hard worker, but you value time off to pursue your own hobbies and that sort of thing. These are things that apply to absolutely everyone. So when people read these things, in my opinion anyway, you might have a different opinion, which is totally fine. But in my opinion, when people read these things, they apply to everyone. And so it seems amazing that it has been written in such an accurate way that applies just to you, when in fact, if anyone read these descriptions, they would all be amazed. And they've actually done studies. There's a guy called Darren Brown. You can watch a documentary on YouTube. He does a rather nasty experiment where they're willing participants. He gets about 20 participants. He gets them to write down a bunch of personal information about themselves and collects it. He doesn't even look at it, but he pretends that he's going to look at it, and then do a horoscope reading on those people based on that information. He then writes one. What are they called? He then writes one story, one horoscope, and for the Librans, for the Capricorns, for the Sagittarians, for the Virgos, he gives them all the exact same reading that he wrote. He only wrote the one reading. And then they film the reactions of these people as they read their horoscopes that have been written by this one man, not knowing that the Virgo's horoscope, the Libra's horoscope, the Capricorn's horoscope, they're all the exact same piece of writing. And these people start crying and getting really, really emotional. How does he know me so well? And it just goes to show how easy it is for astrologers to write things in such a way that they seem true to everyone. That's my sort of science-based opinion of things, but you might have an entirely different perspective, which is absolutely fine. But that's my perspective as a sort of science teacher, But if you fall in one of these different categories, that's absolutely totally fine, obviously. So let's have a look at this. 9 people, which is 4 and a bit percent, think astrology definitely has scientific truth. 54 people, 27%, think that it probably does. 75 people rather, and 37.5% think that astrology probably is not true. And now this is my category, definitely not true. 51 people fall into that category, which is a bit over a quarter of the total number of people, 25.5%. And those who are agnostic, which means they don't know, which is a very respectable position, that is 11 out of a total of 200, which is 5.5%. And over here, represented as a bar graph, we have the ordinal variable down the bottom here in the correct order, from definitely true, probably not true, definitely not true, to I don't know. And then we have the distribution up to the appropriate heights. Okay. There we go. And those heights are actual percentage frequencies. We've used the percentages, not the raw numbers, for this particular graph. All right. Now the question, which I'd like you to have a crack at yourself, you can do this on a blank piece of paper, says, write a report summarising the findings of this investigation, quoting appropriate percentages to support your conclusion. Now, when I run this in class, I usually have the students produce an answer, and then I compare it to the teacher's answer, which is actually the textbook's answer. I just nicked it from the textbook, and we see how similar our summaries of the statistics are. Now, there are a few key things to pay attention to when you are doing this, okay? A few things that you need to include. Now, without initially reading through the teacher's answer here, I just want to point out a few sort of important components that your summary of the statistics of a situation like this needs to include. It needs to include a context and the number of people that were studied. So what was the study about? and how many people were involved. That's in orange there. In green, that's where you present your statistical findings. This many percent responded in this way, this many percent responded in this way, and so on. And then in purple, that's when you want to put the modal categories. So what category received the highest number of respondents? So what was the modal category? And you can also do the opposite in that section. You can say what category attracted the least amount of attention. Okay. All right. So those are the three main things that I'd like you to consider. Now, what I want you to do is to not read that straight away. Grab a blank bit of paper, okay, and I want you to have a crack at writing a little summary following those three guidelines right in this section here, or on a blank piece of paper, okay? Now, as an example to base your report on, open your textbook to exercise 2C. Don't go to the exercises, go to the notes. And at the beginning of the notes, there will be a section that says, quote, some guidelines for describing the distribution of a categorical variable and communicating your findings. Now, that's basically just a little bit more detail on those 3 points that I highlighted below. So you can read over that briefly. And then what I really want you to do is look at example number 3. That's an example, very similar example, and it has a frequency table, and then it has a report written underneath it. I would like you to write a report about the example that we're discussing, based on the rules that we've talked about, and also based on the format in which they've written their report in that particular example, example number 3. This should be on the first page or second page of exercise 2C in the notes section, okay? Have a crack, and then what I want you to do is compare it to this one here and see how you went, all right? And then you will be writing for this exercise a bunch of little reports similar to this. Once you've done a couple, you basically know how to do them all, okay, guys? It's a pretty straightforward exercise. It's just not one that people enjoy particularly, because people don't like writing in maths for some reason. But trust me, it's pretty straightforward, okay? All right, thanks, guys. Good luck with the exercise. Let me know if you have any trouble, and I'll see you next time.